Hey, don't you just love that music? I love the intro so much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Behind the Funny. I dive into comedians' lives, how they began, what they're up to in the future. You know, their stories behind the funny. It doesn't always have to be necessarily funny, but it's their stories. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Peter Garachi.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Peter, how you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you asking me to do this.
You know the first thing I'm going to say to you, Pete, don't take offense. It look like you. It's the camera, or have you put on weight, Pete?
Can you? I'm sorry, but we're back to you being frozen and me being.
That's what a great, what a great moment, Pete. We've only met recently. I met you in New York about about three months ago for the first time, and we was at this new club. It was just opening. We was doing the opening night. Me, you, Tony Woods, and you was hosting that night. Can you remember the name of the club?
Yeah, it's called the Comedy Village. It's actually a brand new club, 44th Street. So this guy, PJ Landers, who used to run the Boston, which is a legendary club in the Village. I know he knows Tony from way back. So, we just happened to be all on the same show together.
Yeah. And I met you, and that's what I met you. I said, all right, listen, I like this guy. Plus, his name was Peter, which is,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, Peter, tell us where you're from. What part of the US are you from?
So I'm from New Jersey. I've lived in New York City for years, but I'm originally from a city called Elizabeth, New Jersey, which I would say I don't recommend anybody be from there. It's got a rough spot. It's right next to the Newark Airport.
Oh, wow. Scary.
But I grew up inner city Elizabeth till I was 12, and then we moved to a farm in northwestern New Jersey on the Pennsylvania border. So I went from 12 to high school. So I literally went from inner city overnight to having cows and sheep. Yeah.
So where did you get your comedy from then?
Well, you know what's funny is I didn't want to be a comedian for a long time. I ran away from stand-up for a long time, and I've thought about this, and I don't think that I thought that being funny was particularly interesting. I just thought that I was naturally funny, but it wasn't something I worked at, and it wasn't something that I knew how to harness or put into service in any way. So it wasn't initially the thing. Other people for my whole life told me to do stand-up. I really ran away from it for a long time until I finally did it. And I was like, oh crap, I should have been doing this all along.
What age did you start comedy?
So it's funny. I did it for the first time at 8 or 9 years old. I did a talent show in my school, and I was very shy. And for whatever reason, I decided to do the talent show in front of the whole, it must have been 200-300 kids. And it went surprisingly well. And then I just didn't do it again for years until I was in my late 20s. It's funny because I was an actor. I'm still an actor. And I remember even writing parody songs. There's this kid, if I ever find him, his name was Derek Echeverria. We used to sit next to each other on the bus in 5th grade. And I wrote a parody song of, remember the Billy Joel song, We Didn't Light the Fire? We didn't light the fire. But it was a huge song in the U.S. And it was he's basically just listing historical facts. And I wrote a parody song called We Didn't Lay the Fart. Songs to him on the bus.
This Peter over here is white, and this one over here is black.
Yeah.
So the jokes might have to even out, but they will somewhere along the line because that's how we roll.
Yeah. So I did that. I would do acting and different stuff, and so stand up came kind of last actually.
So what was you doing before stand up?
So I've kind of had this long journey of different jobs and odds and ends, and I wanted to write, and I eventually I was kind of again in my late 20s trying to figure out what am I doing, what's my life going to be, and I went to my college reunion, and I ran into a girl that I had done a play with, and I knew she was an actress in LA. And she said, "Oh, I always wondered what happened to you. I always wondered if you were acting." And I go, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, you're a really good actor." And I was like, "What?" And then I went back to an old girlfriend and I said, "You know what this girl just said to me?" She said, "I should be an actor." She goes, "Yeah, you should. You're a good actor." So I still wasn't.
Can I just stop you? Have you been in anything that we should know yet, or is it?
Yeah, so I did Law and Order. I don't know if you guys got Law and Order Organized Crime. It's like the newest Law and Order. I don't know if you have that over there. I know it's in some countries. I know it's in Italy. I know it's in South America. So I did Law and Order last year. So basically, to kind of give you the short version, I started as an actor. I trained as an actor.
Right.
And then I got frustrated with acting because, it's a lot of rejections, a lot of waiting, a lot of, I would have, people tell a director or a casting director be like, "Oh, I want to work with you." And then they wouldn't respond to my emails. They wouldn't call me back, whatever.
Same over here, son.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the common story. So I was like, you know what? I want to just focus my energy on one thing. Cause I feel like, especially with acting sometimes in the States, I know in England, it's like you go to London, you do the West End, all the TV, everything is based in London. And it seems like you guys have a very, like a clear track where you go to, acting school, you train classically, you do theater, and then you do television, movies, yada, yada. In America.
You see, again, this is the white people, this is the black people. No, I didn't go to none of them schools
for acting. It's in
acting.
In the States, you can be in Chicago, okay. You can be in LA, you can be in New York. Now Atlanta is a big TV and movie city. And so I was kind of tired of getting pulled in different directions. So I was like, you know what? I just want to focus my energy on one thing. And I had done stand-up. I had done some open mics, and stand-up made the most sense. And so I decided just to focus all my energy on stand-up. And I knew that, stand-up leads to acting opportunities here.
So you reversed it then, because you wanted to be an actor. So you took the stand-up route for more exposure, or?
No, I love them both. I just wanted to work. And when I really discovered I was doing a play. It was a Chekhov play, which is like a 3-hour Russian long play. And it was like, there's 15 people in the cast and there was 8 people in the audience every night. And I was having to carry my costume. We were performing behind like a black box behind a dumpster under the train tracks. And this is what you do when you're a young actor in New York. And I decided just to go to the Comedy Cellar. I think it might've been for the first time one of those nights. And I'll never forget, Dave Attell gets on stage and doesn't even take his bag. He has his like messenger bag on, his coat on. He's got a coffee in his hand, and he gets up there and he just murders for 20 minutes. And I go, that's the life for me. I was like, any art form where you don't even have to take your coat and your bag off. I was like, I'll never carry my costume anywhere ever again.
Sorry, Pete. That was your turning moment to say to you want to do stand-up, yeah?
Yes.
And then from that turning moment, what was your first opportunity to do stand-up, and how did that go?
So, I mean, in New York City, there's a million open mics. So I started doing, and first I just knew of one open mic. It was like a Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And I didn't even know there was other mics. So I would wait every week for Tuesday at 10 o'clock to do this mic. And I didn't know anybody, and I was kind of intimidated. I was a little bit older than the other guys doing it, and I felt kind of like an outsider. And then I slowly started to find different open mics, and I would go to certain mics. And I remember, I don't even know if this woman is in New York anymore. She went by Sophia Nurse. I think that's a stage name.
Can I just stop you there for 1 minute, B? Because there's a funny system. I think it was when I went in Chicago on my tour. I just come off the tour, right? And in Chicago, they have a funny. I think it's Chicago. They have a funny system on the open mic night. Like you put your name into the hat. Like there could be 20 of you, put your name into the hat, and then the guy asks the audience to pick out 10 names. And then you perform, and the rest of the 10 have to go home and come back next week.
In New York, it's very common even now to sign up online, or they'll just like cap it at 15 people.
I think that happened in the Laugh Factory. I think it was the Laugh Factory it happened in, but don't quote me on it. But if I find out, I'll tell you.
So I was in LA a couple months ago, and in LA they have like the store has a once a week mic that like literally 100 people show up and they only call like 15 names.
Yeah. Okay. Similar.
But that's kind of a symptom of the fact that stand up is so popular right now, which is crazy.
It is. It's crazy.
It's too popular. I always tell young comics, there's no dishonor in being the funniest accountant in the office. Like this life is not for most people. So I think people just want to try it and they feel like, oh, I'm funny, I want to do this thing. But the actual like life of a comedian is a very narrow path.
I keep telling people this. They think it's easy. It's not easy. I said it before. We're traveling all over the place sometimes, staying in different hotels, different places, missing your family. Pete, have you got a family?
So I have a girlfriend who I live with, who's a regular person. She's a civilian.
Does she understand that sometimes you won't be available the weekends and things like that?
Of course. I mean, she gets it, but like I try to, I have to make time for her too. She keeps regular hours, and I would say it's hard because a lot of times when I get home, she's not awake, and then she's leaving for work, and I'm not. I try to get up in the morning and like make her coffee. She leaves for work. I try to be a good boyfriend and keep the house clean. And I'm gonna do laundry when I get off of this, so she can come home with some clean laundry. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough lifestyle. And
who does most of the cooking? You or
she's an unbelievable cook. I would say like I'm an old school.
No, I did that on purpose because I wanted you to balance out what you just said, so she didn't feel offended. And now you're giving her praises, which I love. So tell us about.
She's an unbelievable cook. I'd say like I'm a very old school guy, except for when it comes to money. Like she could go work a great corporate job and make a lot of money, but when she gets home, these chicken cutlets are not going to cook themselves. You know what I mean? Like she's got to get in that kitchen.
See, that's what you really meant to say in the first place.
She's a phenomenal cook.
Picking him up, man. What I didn't ask you initially, is how long have you been doing comedy?
So I've been doing it. It's hard for me to count exactly because I feel like I started and stopped a couple times. So it's been about 10 years, but I had a couple there was a couple gaps in there where I feel like I wasn't doing it enough, or I was doing it maybe like once a week or once, you know what I mean? So I know that like, especially like in New York, everyone's like kind of obsessed with like how many sets a week did you do and how many years have you been doing it? So I don't really, I could say about 8 years that I've really been like hitting the bricks.
And you're certainly climbing up this ladder quite a quick. Tell me some of the more famous comedians that you worked with. We're going to get to the story in a minute.
So I've had kind of an interesting trajectory. I think it's interesting. I don't know too many comics that have done this. So up into the pandemic, I kind of worked myself into like a feature act, so a middle act. So there's a couple clubs, especially like in the Northeast, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Jersey, Long Island, outside of New York City. So I don't know if your viewers know, like, so New York City, it's all showcase clubs. So every comic, whether it's Dave Attell and Louis C.K. or it's, somebody like me, you're getting up, you're doing 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it is. And then just outside the city is where the headliner clubs are. So I worked my way up from MC to feature. And so I was featuring, and then the pandemic happened and all that went away. So I was in the restaurant business, and this is one of the reasons why how many years I've been doing stand-up is an interesting question, because I was working at night and weekends. So again, I was trying to fit in comedy around that schedule, which is insane. And so after the pandemic, I actually got offered a comedy club to manage. And when the owner of the club found out that I, was a comic and also had worked in restaurants, he's like, "Oh, I need somebody to run my club." So this was a small place called the Comedy Shop. It's on Bleecker Street in the Village. I didn't want to do it at first because I was like, I don't want to manage a comedy club. And my friends were like, "You got to do this. This is the perfect job for you." And it ended up being great. I ended up like kind of turning the club around. It became sort of a hot spot, and bigger name comics started popping around because a lot of the comics had started there. It was a place where people like comics were just running shows, and like Schultz was there back in the day, Nate Bargatze, Amy Schumer, everybody like at the very least performed there, if not ran shows there. So I was there for a year and a half, and then the GM of the Comedy Cellar, which is the most famous comedy club in the world, saw me over there and brought me over to the Cellar to manage at the Cellar. So at the Cellar, I mean, I literally dealt with everybody: Kevin Hart, Ray Romano, Louis C.K., like every Dave Chappelle. Everybody comes through the Cellar. Whenever any famous comedian that comes to New York City wants to go to the Cellar. So I was there for a year. That's where I met Tony Woods too. He would come through.
Oh, we'll soon have him on here, Tony Woods. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So I actually left that job about 3 months ago because I realized. I mean, I knew this was going to have to happen, but I was kind of slowly like fading away from being a comic. and just being a manager of a comedy club.
Okay.
Even when I was there, I was performing pretty regularly. I would put in basically what days I needed, and I would, like I said, I would get feature gigs, and so I'd be like, all right, next week I'm featuring at this club Wednesday to Saturday, so I'm going to be away, or I'm doing these shows Friday, Saturday. But it was still, even doing that, it just felt like it was like bad for my spirit to be there, even 2-3 nights a week. I'm just watching other comedians perform, and I'm not performing. So I knew sooner or later I was going to have to leave there, and I was going to have to go back out, into the wild and just be a comic, just be a New York City comic. And so I did that so in a way, so even now I'm still feel like I'm like reintroducing myself into the scene. It's only been a couple months, and even a lot of comics still think that I'm, they're like, oh, what's going on in the cellar? I'm like, oh no, I left the cellar. They're like, what? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm a comic first. Like I didn't want to, and like in this business, people put you in certain boxes. So sometimes if like a club knows you as an MC, they don't consider you as a feature. If they know you as a feature, they don't consider you a headliner. So I was getting known as the guy that worked at the cellar, but not as a comic.
Not as a comedian anymore.
Identity, it was important to make this change.
So there's a story going on. What's the incident with you and Dion Cole? Because it was
so it's funny. I've told this story in conversation in New York, but this is not my first like public telling. So this is
there you go, people, exclusive.
Yeah, this is exclusive. So the Comedy Cellar is now 4 rooms with like basically on the same block. So for people listening that might not know how this works, so this is the original cellar, and then around the corner are the Fat Black and the Village Underground. So there's 4 different rooms. So comics can literally run around and hop around from room to room to room. And we have these like closed circuit TVs, and they show you what's going on in the different rooms. So I'll be in the Village Underground, and I'll see like, oh shit, Chris Rock is on the stage on McDougal Street. So I had already.
So for those back in England, it's like being on a block, right? And in this block, there's like 4 different entrances, but all around different corners. But they all lead into this. You can all interchange into. It's like an underground palace of comedy, isn't it? From one room to the other, to the other, within the same building.
Yeah.
Comedy. And there's 4 different shows going up at the same time. The Comedy Cellar is amazing. Sorry, continue, Peter.
So I call that neighborhood comedy headquarters, because even outside the cellar, there's also like 3 other clubs, and the club I was running before the cellar was like 2 blocks away. So there's always comics. I would say like the comics just kind of rendezvous in that neighborhood. Like we're all lone wolves, but every once in a while we need to confer with the other wolves. But so I'd already given notice. I was leaving, and this was my last Friday night managing at the Village Underground. And the Village Underground, it's a 250, 280 seat room. Used to be a music venue. And, this is the end of the night. This is like 1 a.m. So this is the end of the 4th show. On a Friday, Saturday, they have 4 shows back to back to back to back. 250 people come in, 250 people leave, another, like literally all night. And they're turning people away on the
to tell people to wait to go to the other shows or wait for the next show.
And I see that Dion Cole is on stage around the corner at the McDougal Street stage. And so I text my boss and I said, hey, is Dion going on over here? And she goes, oh no, he did the cellar already. So again, because we're wrapping up. Ironically, there's a drunk girl that's like walking around right now, so I'm the manager. I'm managing this whole thing. This show's going on. There's 250 people in there, and I'm trying to deal with this drunk girl. And Tony Woods is like, "Oh, Dion Cole's coming over," and I was like, "Yeah, I know who Dion is." He goes, "Yeah, is he going on?" I go, "No, I was told that he's not on this show." So I didn't think anything. And again, I'm sitting there like I'm trying to get this drunk girl out. Her boyfriend's like, hey, I'm not going to get banned from this place. I was like, dude, can you just get this girl home? Like, this girl's like falling over. She's like talking to people. And he's worried about whether or not he's going to be able to come back to the club. So it's the end of the night. Like we're wrapping up. And, Dion's sitting in the back. There's a bunch of comics like sitting at the comics table. And I didn't even talk to him because I was like, what am I going to be like? Hi, I'm the manager. How are you? I know you're a famous guy.
Okay.
But, but it's just like, I didn't really think anything of it. And then the next day, the next day, ironically, I got a new phone and my phone didn't update yet. So I don't have my contacts in my phone. I don't have my social media in my phone.
Yeah, phone
I'm at a barbecue and I start getting texts and I don't have the number saved. So I don't even know who these numbers are coming from.
Right.
And it's just people sending me Dion Cole's Instagram, because apparently he got on Instagram the next day and was like, oh, you know, New York disrespected your boy. And he does this 4-minute video. And I was like, what? And so people are texting me like, is this you? Because like all my friends that know that I work at the cell, I was like, yeah, it is me. Or I hope this isn't you. And I'm like, no, it's me. And the funny thing is like, literally this was my last Friday night. I was like, this is the perfect reason to not be managing a comedy. I was like, I don't want to be the comedy police. Like I'm a comic. I don't want to be the one that's, and it wasn't even my call. But I think, you know, people probably blame me for it. Because even because Dion said, he was like, oh, you know, they told the manager I'm Dion Cole. And the manager says, I don't know him, which is not even true. I know who Dion Cole is. And I didn't even speak to Dion Cole.
So have you made up? Has he spoken to you?
Well, I don't know. I mean.
Oh, yeah. You haven't met him since?
I have my people call his people. I don't know. Dion, if you're listening, like, you know, if you ever need an opener, I can't put you on. If you want to put me on a show, I'd appreciate it. I was in LA and I saw he had a show. What's that? I saw he had a show. I was like, maybe I should stop by and be like, hey, what's up? Can we make peace? He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't. I don't even know if he would recognize me or
he's gonna know now, though, brother.
Yeah, it's just funny because it became this like the next day, and like, you know, and all these comics are like commenting on the video, and it's a lot of like clout chasing, like, oh, Dion, come to my backyard show. We'll treat you like gold. I'm like, what do you think's gonna happen? Like people just don't know. They didn't know the situation. They were commenting on it, and again, he's like It seemed like it was people were trying to turn it into like a New York versus Chicago beef, which is, I think it's because it just like the Drake and Kendall Lamar thing just happened. So I was like, are they trying to turn this into a comedy like rap beef? Like, I don't know what's going on. But he wasn't disrespected by New York because he went on at the Cellar like right before then. It wasn't like people were like being disrespectful to him. He just wasn't. He wasn't on the show. So there is. The Cellar is also the hardest club to get on, and they don't just let anybody who walks in the door. And not that he's a big star. God bless. Good for you, Dion Cole. Okay. But like, from what I understand, if Chris Rock drops in, he calls ahead of time and says, "Hey, I'm coming by." Okay,
I understand. But listen, that's resolved anyway. If you can steal a joke from someone, what joke will it be? Well, I'm not saying borrow. Not that you're going to steal it, but you know, you think, man, I wish I could say that.
So I love a lot of comics. To me, like Mitch Hedberg, I love. The three comics I look to all the time are Mitch Hedberg, Patrice, and Norm Macdonald.
Patrice.
And I don't think anyone watching me do stand up would say, oh, he's taking that from Patrice, or oh, he's taking that from Norm. But me, I know when I'm being influenced by those guys, and so. Like just a joke. I don't know if you the Dufresne Party of Two. There's a Mitch Hedberg joke. To me, that is a perfect joke. And I don't do jokes. Like Mitch Hedberg would just do punchline.
Yeah.
I do more kind of story stuff. That's more. I don't know if you told me just to write a straight joke, I don't know if I would know how to do it. But Mitch Hedberg was the master at that. And I love it, and I think about it all the time. And I try to think about how Mitch Hedberg wrote and how it, like, sort of his thought process. And then on the other side, Norm Macdonald, he has a famous.
I thought you were going to tell us a joke. I thought you were going to tell us what the joke was. I was waiting for the crescendo.
I forget exactly how he does it. He goes, you know, Dufresne. He's like, you ever been at a restaurant and they call people for tables and they go, oh, Dufresne, party of two. Dufresne, party of two. And then they go, oh, the Dufresnes are not here. So, you know, Johnson, party of three. And he goes, wait a minute. What about the Dufresnes? He goes, how could anybody eat at a time like this? People are missing. Like, it's such a simple, stupid joke, but I think it's brilliant. I think it's the funniest joke.
Pete, what have you got planned for now? What's your next venture, or what do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
So I'm doing stand up as much as I can. I would like to, like I said, right now I'm doing feature work and I'd like to work up to headlining. So I'm trying to work on, building up to an hour. And I've done a few times, I've done 40 minutes to an hour, but I really want to consistently be doing an hour on the road. Acting too, like I'm auditioning all the time for TV and for movies and for commercials. I like both, and I think stand up leads to acting, and I think stand ups often make very interesting actors. I mean, I think Eddie Murphy is an amazing actor. I think Michael Keaton started as a stand up, and he's an actor. Albert Brooks is another guy who I love as a writer performer and as an actor too. So I'm hoping, to be writing stuff, to be performing. To me, at the end of the day, it's like we are storytellers. I think even if you're just telling jokes on stage. So to me, movies are storytelling, television is storytelling. A person on stage for an hour, that's storytelling. So to me, the medium doesn't really matter as much. If God forbid, I get, a TV show for 8 years and I'm the star of that TV show, I'm not going to be like, well, what I really wanted to do was make movies. You know what I mean?
Hey, listen, stop it. Listen, if you get a TV show, remember who you're speaking to, yeah?
Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, I think,
because you're liable to get a TV show before I will get a TV show.
The funny thing is, for me, I don't know that I read as funny on camera. So I'm always going out for like gangster, cop, bad guy. Like,
yes, your character was a bad guy. Yes.
Yeah. So I get people they give me like these like Tony Soprano comments because I'm Sicilian from Jersey.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, when I was a kid, I was like this goofy like skateboarding like kid.
No way, bro. You look like a guy. If he was over here, right, in the UK, you got that look of I'm gonna kill you. Yeah, that you got that.
I'll take it.
And you're probably, the thing is, you're probably the nicest person, but you just got that look. People in the UK know what we're talking about. It's the looks.
Yeah, I believe I'm a pretty nice guy. I would never hurt anybody in real life.
Look at him put on the chart.
They really had it
Did you see that?
Unless they owed me money and didn't pay me back. But no, like I said, like if I end up playing bad guys in movies, like that's cool too. Like I'm kind of open to where this life takes me. But I do want to use my talents, and I like making people laugh. And I think that no matter what, I'll always want to go on stage.
Pete, where is it for you then? Where do you see, like I said, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And is there any obstacles stopping you from getting there?
I mean, I think it's the same obstacles as everybody else. I think, I'm older and I have adult responsibilities, and I don't, if I was 23 years old right now, I'd probably be, living with 5 roommates in Williamsburg and just doing, 10 spots a night. But, I mean, the obstacle is always, life. And I always say, like, the thing about New York City, like the thing about being an artist in New York City is figuring out how to live as an artist in New York City. Meaning that, well, whether you're a dancer or an actor or whatever it is, you got to figure out a way to set up your life so that you can live and be a person. And I believe in you got to have a life that kind of fills your cup too. It can't just be go, make. You have to have something that's informing your art, which I think means watching other artists, going to see music, going to art museums, and taking in the city too. Like really, I'm somebody who really loves cities in general. But New York City is my favorite place in the world. And I think like I'm constantly taking in, and I don't know, sometimes I'm just making the lady at the Target laugh, or, at the grocery store laugh. And that, at least makes me at least believe that I'm in the right place, doing the right thing. But yeah, the difficulty is, life gets in the way. And I'm somebody who I've self-sabotaged a few times where I've let things get in the way of me doing what I was supposed to do. But now I feel like I'm on the right path, and I'm committed to that path.
I wanted to ask you this question earlier, though. Have you done many urban shows?
So yes, I started. So I used to live in a neighborhood called Spanish Harlem, which is East Harlem in the city, and there was a lot of just bar shows up there. So when I first started, it's funny, when I first started really getting serious with stand-up, I was getting booked as an MC at this club in Pennsylvania. And it's literally like a casino in Pennsylvania. It's just like a real white kind of country suburban crowd. So I was doing that on the
right in, Pete. You fit right in, trust me.
No, I don't consider myself regular white. We're Italians. We're a special breed, separate. And so I was doing that on the weekends, and then during the week, I was riding my bike from all these like bar shows in Harlem, in East Harlem. And so I really learned in those. I mean, I think urban is. I mean, they're black rooms. Like everything in New York City is urban. There's no rural rooms.
Yeah.
In New York City, so urban is a funny.
Oh, good. I'm glad you called it what it is. Black rooms. Pete,
So, but
how many black rooms?
I would do sometimes like 4 in a night, and I would literally, the doorman at these bars would always laugh because they'd see this fucking white guy on a bicycle just rolling up, locking my bicycle to the stop sign, and then running into the bar. And the cool thing about black rooms is the audience is they tend to be very good comedy audiences, but don't waste their time and let them know who you are and why you're there.
Hey, listen, they want their comedy. Where was I? At the Bounce in Chicago. I was at this is a black room, son. I tell people this all the time, like the show was meant to start at a certain time, and 8 o'clock, I got on stage 11:30.
Yeah,
black rooms.
I don't like when like white comics feel like they gotta like be like, yo, what's up, my man? I'm like, just be yourself. Like they can see through your bullshit, be yourself. But they want to see who you are, and they want to know that you're up there and that you're you're commanding the stage. But it's like in New York, especially, it's like you got to punch. And so then I was going out to Pennsylvania, and I remember the feature came up to me, and he's like, yo, man, you're coming in real hot. And I realized that, this like nice little quiet Pennsylvania audience, that's might be the only thing they're doing for the weekend is going to see this show. And they just want to spend time with you, and they have your undivided attention. Like you don't have to fight for their attention. So 7 minutes in New York City is like 12 minutes over there. And so I learned how to like let it breathe and open up. They just want to spend time with you. So to me, that was my training ground. I was actually doing both of those simultaneously. Like the Harlem rooms during the week.
That's what I noticed about you, because that's why I feel that you got that nice balance, and you could do diverse audiences, which is really important. Well, it's an important thing for me, and it obviously seems important for you.
Yeah, I love audiences that want to that are enjoying that. This is a unique experience. Do you know what I mean? Even when I was running the club, sometimes we'd have shows. There's like 8 people on a Monday, and I would talk to the people afterwards. And they were going back to Germany or Ohio the next day. So this was their last night in New York City, and they chose to spend it with us. So to me, like, I hate when comedians make people feel bad because there's a small audience. It's like, it's not the audience member's fault that we didn't sell more tickets.
I love that, because you've seen both sides of the spectrum, and I love that. That's a great understanding.
Yeah, those people deserve a good show, and a lot of times you give them a unique experience. They're going to remember that more than the person who was in the room with 100 people that were just kind of lame anyway.
Pete, thank you so much for coming on Behind the Funny. You've been an excellent and a very informative host. It was nice to see the background of where you come from, working behind as a manager to turn it into a comic, which was your natural thing. And you're doing acting, which is absolutely brilliant. Remember me, though, bro. That's all I'm saying to you. So, Peter, where can people find you?
I'm on social media. I need to start doing more of that because that's the world that we live in. I'm going to start posting more clips and stuff, but I'm at the Garachi on Instagram. It's probably the best way to find me. It's and then GUARRACI is how you spell my last name.
We're going to definitely meet again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
Take care, bro.